Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Just Daf It, part of Yeshiva YouTube. We're continuing Kesubos Daf It number 25. A great share for you today. We'll be talking more about being Mala from the Siyus Kapayim to Yuchsin. When can we decide that a Kohen is fit, meaning a suspicious person? Do we assume that he's a mamzer and a sin? We have no background checks, not able to look into figure out where he's from. Was he a legitimate child? We don't know. So the fact that he duchens in the front of the shul, we assume that he's genealogically fit. We'll talk about that today. The Gemara doesn't really seem to give an answer, but I do have an answer for you, and I'll make that more impactful during Ian with Ben Sion. Let's get started. The top of Chaf Ham and Aleph. V'by Yisayim with the third line. Right, we're talking about the possibility of being ma'ala someone from the Siyus Kapayim to Yuchsin. When I just mentioned that if he duchen in the shul, he's genealogically fit. We assume he's not a mamzer, he can marry a Bas Yisrael. The Gemara disproved it. The Gemara tried to prove it from a case in Ezra, where the Gemara said Gdola Chazaka, and the Gemara says now the Chazaka was that originally they were allowed to eat in Bavel, eat Truma D'Rabbana, and now when they went to Eretz Yisrael, they were allowed to eat Truma D'Oraisa. Not that they could be called genealogically fit, can be called not a mamzer and a sin. Alternatively, also when they came up to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel, they still couldn't eat Truma D'Oraisa. When only ma'ala someone, we only elevate someone if he's eating Truma D'Oraisa. If he's only eating Truma D'Rabbanan, that's not good enough proof that he's genealogically fit. What did the Raisa mean? It's a great chazaka. They were eating Truma D'Rabbanan. So they could still eat Truma D'Rabbanan. It's not really a sufficient proof for chazaka. No, all Gdol Chazaka is telling you that, right, originally in Babel they ate Truma D'Rabbanan, went to Eretz Yisrael, even though there was such a thing as Truma D'Oraisa, they can only eat Truma D'Rabbanan. However, Gdol Chazaka, that we're not goes there, that they might come to eat Truma D'Oraisa, which would be a problem, because they eat Truma D'Oraisa, then they can Malam Yuchsim, which we don't want. With Truma D'Oraisa lo achol, they didn't eat Truma D'Oraisa, v'achsiv asher lo yochlu mikodesh HaKodshim. It says in the pasuk in Ezra, they didn't eat from Kodesh HaKodashim. Mikodesh HaKodashim would lo achol, which is talking about karbanos. How about Truma D'Oraisa echol? It's mashma that Truma D'Oraisa they would eat. Otherwise, the pasuk would have excluded it. Hachi Gamar. The Gemara answers lo b'midi deikri kodesh dechsiv chazar leyochal kodesh v'lo b'midi deikri kodesh. You have to split the words into two words, kodesh, right, and that's a reference to truma. Leyochal chazar leyochal kodesh reference to truma. V'lo b'mikri deikri kodesh, and also not in kodesh. You'll see v'vas kohen kisei yizar. When the daughter of a Kohen, she marries Yisrael, he b'shumas hakachim lo sochal, she can no longer return to her father's house, even if she has no children. Amar b'muram min hakachim lo sochal, she can't eat kachim anymore. Talking about the Chazan and Shok. Tashma, still trying to bring a proof whether you can mala mitruma liyuchsin. Chazaka lakuna nisiyus kapayim b'bavel. We can have the assumption you're a Kohen, right, and you're genealogically fit. That's the highest level you can reach. Yuchsin is the highest thing that we know, that we can let you marry whoever you want, Bas Yisrael. We're not choshesh that the child is going to mamzer. So, chazaka lakuna nisiyas kapayim. If someone duchens in Bavel, v'achilas chala b'surya, and if they're eating chala is when you bake a certain amount of dough, right? You have to take off chala and give it to a kohen. It's also for a zar to eat. In Syria, Damascus, Syria. V'chiluk matanas b'krachim. I just saw this interview on YouTube. They were in New York City. They were trying to ask people the most basic questions about the world, about math. Can you name 3 countries besides the United States? Can you name the capital of Chicago? What's 3 times 3 times 3? And I don't know if they asked a lot of people or just these people or a little more than just these people, but there were at least 9 or 10 people that weren't even close. But when it came to the Kardashians, they got all the Kardashian sisters, the Jenner sisters and the Kardashians. They got all of those. But everything else they didn't know. And someone wrote in the comments, he wrote, these are the people that are shaping politics in the United States. Most of these people are completely illiterate about the whole world. They can't name 3 countries outside. I think one person, they said Canada and New Mexico. New Mexico. For those people who don't know, New Mexico is not a country; it's a state in the United States. How many states are in the United States? One person said 52. I guess they wanted Puerto Rico and they wanted Washington D.C. to be the new states. And then someone said 100. That's a stupid answer. Anyway, so we're talking about Syria. Syria is a country. So what's the capital of Syria? Damascus. Where's Damascus Gate? It's in Syria, right? It might be Damascus in Syria, but most people call it Shar Shechem. What's called Shar Shechem? Shechem is Nablus. Nablus. Shechem, or Yosef was buried. Kever Yosef in Shechem. No, because it faces Damascus, which is the capital of Syria. Alright, I don't know why I threw that in. Just it was a funny video I see. They have some great videos on YouTube, I have to say. I mean, I'm a producer on YouTube. I'm a creator on YouTube, but I love the platform. I think it's a great platform. Besides the fact that videos are very interesting and they're very transparent and honest, what I love more about is the comments. The comments, people will just say exactly what's on their minds. No BS. I love that. I love hearing what really people really think. I don't like seeing when someone puts a video out, everyone says the same comment, like this guy's amazing, guy's amazing. I want to hear a little critique sometimes. I think it's okay to critique people, even if a person's exceptional at what he does, makes an exceptional video. There's always something to critique. Trust me, I get a lot of critique. I hear a lot more critique than approbation about the videos that I make. I hear very little positive feedback. It almost makes me think like I'm wasting my time, but then I say to myself, no, what I really do is really good. And then I watch my videos, I'm like, wow, my stuff is much better than other people's stuff. Sometimes one of my friends actually said, like, you're killing it, bro. He told me I'm killing it, so I'm killing it. That means pretty good. I rarely get positive feedback, so I don't get any comments. No one's even commenting on my videos. I say a lot of astounding things, controversial things. Nothing. Come on, comments. Leave some comments. Tell me what you think. How I can improve, if I can improve. All right, so the Gemara says in Syria, where are we? In the middle of this Bryce over here. Nesias Kamayim, Bavel, Achilas Chala, Besura, Vechilak Matanas, Bekrachim. And giving out Matanas refer to the Matanas Kahuna that are given from an animal, Zroa, Lechaim, and Keva. When you shecht an animal, even if it's schooling, you have to give the Kohen the Zroa, Lechaim, and the Keva. Keva is the midsection, the stomach. The Zroa is one of the forelegs, and Lechaim is the jaw. You're supposed to give the Kohen in the Krachim, in the big cities, right? So, Ksani Miyas, the Silas Kapayim. Silas Kapayim is a proof for Kahuna. My lovely Yuchsin doesn't mean to say he's a full blown Kohen that we treat him even for Yuchsin. Though the Truma. All it does is prove that they get Truma. But it compares all 3 cases to the Chala. Ma Achilas Chala Yuchsin, just like Chala for sure. Kimal Yuchsin, how this is Kapayim Yuchsin. Lo, Achilas Chala Gufal the Truma. No, the fact that he's eating challah, all that's a proof that he can eat truma, not that he's kosher liyuchsin. Because challah is manazeh derabbanan. Obviously, the manner when this price holds challah in nowadays is derabbanan. The truma deraisa, we'll see later on in the daf, what's the basis of assuming challah nowadays is, or always was derabbanan, and truma is deraisa. Maskin mechallah derabbanan, the truma deraisa. The apichlu, Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yeshua. Rav Huna B'rei Yeshua switched around. Someone else said the opposite. Tashma chazak l'kuna nesilas kavayim mechilak garnas b'Eretz Yisrael v'Surya. It's a status, an establishment for kahuna. If you see someone duchening, or they go to the granary and they get truma in Eretz Yisrael. With Surya, in Surya outside of Eretz Yisrael, and any place outside of Israel where the shluchim can reach by the 15th of the month, Nesias Kapayim Raya. Nesias Kapayim is a proof. Giving in the granaries truma, if it's truma derabanan, it's not a proof. Bavel Kesuria, and Bavel has the same status as Syria. Even Alexandria, it's a city in Egypt, based in Kfu and Sham. Originally, before the Romans wiped it out, the Lord says in Sukkah, in the last parak, they wiped it out, that settlement over there of Jews. Originally, that was like Bavel also. Ksani Miyas Kesios Kapayim says Kesios Kapayim in the Brisa. My love the Yochsin. Kesios Kapayim is a valid chazak assumption that he's a Kohen. Isn't it mean also for Yochsin? So the Gemara answers, Lo l'chala. No, it's an establishment that he can eat chala. Hadumi the chilak grana kasani. But it says similar to chilak grana. It's not chilak grana to yochsen after his kapayim yochsen. Just like truma, he malach from truma to yochsen, so too in his kapayim yochsen. Lo chilak grana is gufa l'chala. Chilak grana is truma itself allows the kohen to eat chala. Because truma is on a zeder rabbanan. The chala deraisa and holds truma nowadays is only the rabbanan. Right? Because the reason Truma is only the Rabban is because Truma is a mitzvah tluya ba'aretz, and it's dependent on the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. So originally, when Yeshua entered the land, they were Makadish Yisrael. There's an opinion, kedusha rishona kitchel ha'shayis, kitchel ha'ashid lavo, ulo kitchel ha'ashid lavo. Assuming it wasn't kitchel ha'ashid lavo, when Ezra went back, was he Makadish it just for that time period until the Chorban Abayis Sheni, or was he Makadish it forever? So we assume that kitchel the shayit of ulo kitchel ha'ashid lavo, and maybe, like Mara assumes, Truma Zanzeh Rabbanan, that Ezra wasn't Makadish it after the Chorban, only for his period when the Beis Mikdash existed. Because Truma Zanzeh Rabbanan, L'chal Daraisa, L'chal Daraisa, Maskim, Truma Rabbanan, L'chal Daraisa. And if someone's eating Truma Rabbanan, you could assume you could eat L'chal Daraisa. U'kudash Shechina Rav Huna B'Reid Rav Yeshua L'Rabbanan. We're going to say the incident right here. Rav Huna B'Reid Yeshua is found in Rabbanan. The Amar Rav Huna B'Reid Rav Yeshua, Ashchin L'Rabbanan B'Bei Rav. I found the rabbinical students in the yeshiva of Rav, the Yasif V'Kamra, Filam Adam or Truma B'Zan Zed Rabbanan. Even if you hold Truma B'Zan Zed is now the Rabbanan, meaning after the Chorban, Chal is Doraisa, Shrei Zayin Shekivtu Zayin Shechilku. The 7 years where they conquered Eretz Yisrael in time of Yeshua, and the 7 years they gave it out before they established Israel, is Chayiv B'Chalav, Lon is Chayiv B'Truma. They weren't Chayiv. There was no base on Mikdash, so they were Chayiv. They were Chayiv in Chala, and they weren't Chayiv in Truma. I said to them, I said the opposite to them. I feel them on them are Truma Zan Deraisa. Chala Deraban. This is how we hold. Truma Zan technically there is Truma Deraisa. Chala is Deraban. The sign of B'Voachem al Aretz. It says B'Voachem. The pasuk which talks about the Chiv of Chala says when you come to the land. B'Voachem. When you come, Yachal Mishnich Tzula Shnaim V'Shloshim Meraglim. Even if 2 or 3 spies, the Meraglim came in right away. You're Chayiv in Chala. Tell them B'Voachem. B'Vias Kulcha Chem. Right? It has to be Kulchem Amarti, V'lo Bias Miksaschem. Kulchem really means ro, Rubo Kula. If rov of the Jews lived in Eretz Yisrael, so they'd be chayiv in Chal, they'd be Chala Midoraisa. In Eretz Yisrael is Chala. Presumably it's a mitzvah tluy ba'aretz, maybe it's not a mitzvah tluy ba'aretz, but the chiyuv of Chala Midoraisa is based on rov of Klal Yisrael living in Eretz Yisrael. Do we have that nowadays? This is a halacha. It's questionable whether now we have rov of Klal Yisrael living. There are definitely more Jews that live in Eretz Yisrael than anywhere else in the world. But combining everywhere else in the world compared to Israel, I don't think you have rov, so it's still not doraisa. Truma B'Zman says a machlokes, whether it's doraisa or derabanan, but I think a lot of poskim assume it's doraisa. Maybe it's a suffix doraisa. So v'lo Mabias because of Michayaskinu Ezra, the Amud finishes top of Chav Hamid Beis. Ezra lav kulu salak. When Ezra came to Israel, not our majority of Klal Yisrael remained in Bavel, so therefore it wasn't a chiv and chala midoraisa. Tashma. Still trying to figure out if you can be mala Nesias Kapayim Liyosef. Chazaka Lakuna, Nesias Kapayim Mechila Garnas Ve'edus. Establishing someone as a kuna for all the things that you're entitled to if you're a Kohen, Nesias Kapayim. If we see you duchening, or you get Chilik Garnas, you get Truma. Ve'edus, and Edus, someone testifies that you're a Kohen. Edus, Chazaka, like more question, Edus is a Chazaki, Alav Haki Gomer. Nesias Kapayim Ki Edus. Nesias Kapayim, the reason to include Edus, testimony. I mean, there's nothing better than testimony. My edus liyuchsin, just like 2 kosher edim, right, is good enough to machshir someone for yuchsin. After this kapayim liyuchsin, so to establishing the fact that he duchened in front of the congregation, so therefore we establish he's a kohen, he's genealogically fit. Well, edus haba mikol chazaka. The Gemara rejects that. No, edus that comes mikol chazaka kichazaka has din of chazaka. Okay, who the asik lamei Rabbi Ami? What are we talking about? Someone came in front of Rabbi Abi. Amalei mukzakani. I assume, I have the assumption he's a Kohen. Amalei Marais. What's your proof? Amalei Shakar Rishon Beis HaKnesses. Cheskes Shu Kohen. He had the first aliyah in the shul. Oh, Beches to Beis HaKnesses. She asked him. Rabbi Ami persisted. Becheskes Shu Kohen. Becheskes Shu Gadol. Like the Gemara Megillah says, not always. If there's a big Torah scholar there, he could read first in Kriyas HaTorah before the Kohen. And once the Gemara in Gittin says, once a Kohen doesn't read the first aliyah, and inspired that Chavila, and the second one reading after him is no longer, it doesn't have to be a Levi. We'll see why that's significant in a second. So he said, I assume he's a Kohen because Shakara Acharav Levi. So the next person right after him is a Levi. Now, If it was a Gadol B'Torah who was a Yisrael who read before him, so Levi wouldn't be number 2. It would be another Talmud Chacham or Yisrael. We wouldn't do a Levi second. So it must be the first one was a Kohen. Based on the testimony, it was testimony. Rabbi Yami said he's a Kohen, right? And that's Kriyas HaTorah. The Gemara doesn't discuss this yet. Kriyas HaTorah, that he's a Kohen. Does that assume liyuchsin? Yes, the Gemara says laguna al piv, assuming to all the ramifications of being a Kohen, including calling him genealogically fit. Who dasal kamei the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Someone came from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Amar lei muchzgani b'zeh shu Levi. I assume he's a Levi. Amar lei marais. What's your proof? Amar lei shakara sheni beis hakneses. He got the second aliyah in shul. V'chezkas shu Levi. V'chezkas shu gadol. Shakara. How do you know he's a Levi? Maybe he's a gadol, and the biggest gadol read first, and he read second. Shakara l'fan of Kohen. The Kohen read first, so therefore the second aliyah has to go to the Levi. Belur Yeshua ben Levi Levi al Piv. And based on that, Yeshua gave him Leviah, which entitles you to Meiser, Rishon, and other perks. Who the Asal made the Reish Lakish Amrle Muksani B'Zeshu Kohen. He said, I have the assumption he's a Kohen. Amrle Marais. What's your testimony? It was him and another aide. It was Eidim. Amrle Shakar Rishon Beis HaKnesses. He read first in Shalom. Did you see him get truma in the threshing floors? Who cares about truma? If he Kriyas HaTorah, he was proven to be a Kohen. That's good enough. Zim didn't have a Yasu Kamei Rabbi Yochanan. At a different time, they were sitting in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Asa Kiahu Maisa Lekamei. At the same incident came in front of him. Meaning someone came, testified, I saw him getting the first aliyah in shul. So Reish Lakish, who wasn't sure about the halacha, Rabbi Lezer presented a rejection of Reish Lakish's logic. It's not clear whether Reish Lakish accepted it or not. So Reish Lakish wasn't sure. So Reish Lakish says, he asked the question, the same question Rabbi Lezer asked him. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan, if there's no Goren, who cares about the true Malakuna? As long as he's Kara Rishon but basic analysis, there's no greater proof than that. Amalei Hadar Chazi Lezer Bishas. Reish Lakish was upset that Rabbi Lezer didn't say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Shamat Mili Debar Nafcha V'Lamar LaMishmei. You heard from Rabbi Yochanan. Obviously, Rabbi Lezer got it from somewhere. This phrase, right? Who cares about, right? If there's no Goren, there's no Kahuna. Kahuna, you can be Mala based on the fact that you got the first Aliyah in Shul. He was upset that Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't say that Rabbi Yochanan, because otherwise, then based on that, he would have concluded that the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yechiya Chad Hela Ben Al Piav LeKahuna. Rabbi and Rabbi, we're not sure who at this point. One of them said that a child is a Kohen based on the testimony of his father. Another one raised someone to the status of a Levi based on the testimony of his brother. This time, the Rebbe Hela Ben Al Piav of the Kahuna. Let's assume it's Rebbe who's the one who says that the father could be mal his son to Kahuna based on his testimony. Tanya Haresh Ababa Amar Benizev a Kohenu. He comes in front of him and says, "This is my son," where he's believed about his son, but Kohenu. And he said, not only is he my son, he's a Kohen. We can give him truma. We don't give him yuchsin. Dear Rebbe, Amar Rebbe Chia said back to him, if you believe him for truma, you should leave him for isha. If you don't believe him to marry a woman, to be considered genealogically fit, so then you shouldn't give him truma. No. That's a biyado. We'll learn about this in a biyado. Biyado, like a father has a daughter, has the rights to mekadesh his daughters. Therefore, he's neman to say who is mekadesh her to. Same thing over here. He's neman to say that he could feed his son truma because he could technically give truma to his son. If we know he's a Kohen, he owns Kohen. His possession, he gave it to his son, so we believe him to say that his son is a kosher Kohen. He's not the daughter of a grusha, a chalal. I can't. Right, when someone comes to in front of a basin in order to marry a woman, we are still suspect. Maybe his mom's there in a sin. We don't know. So it is a good proof. The Rebbe Hala ben Al Biav Lekuna, Rebbe Chia Achal Biachav Levia. So must be Rebbe Chia who arranged that a brother could be promoted to a Levi based on the testimony of his brother. Rebbe Chia Maishna Ben Delo. Why did he say that a son you can't be malad to Kahuna even for truma? The Karu Eitz Alaviv. Because they're related. His Adis is puzzle. Nami brothers are also krovim. They shouldn't be believed. The Gemara answer is Chavam and Aleph Mesiach Vitumo. We're talking about a case where the brother gave testimony, not as testimony. He was just speaking. He was rattling off what happened during the day. We'll see in a second, and therefore that's good testimony because there's no chashash that he's lying. There was an incident of the person Shahaya Mesiach Vitumo Amar Zechrani Kshani Tuno. He was just recounting his childhood. He was talking to his therapist. He said, I remember when I was a child, He used to give me a ride on his shoulder out of school. I was standing base on Saver. He took me out of school. If she tunas tunasi, he took off my shirt. He toveled me in the mikvah. I eat truma at night, right? Because we assume little kids play with shrotzim, they play with dead insects, and he probably became tamei. In order to eat truma, he has to be tahor. So a full young can't eat truma. Only when herav shemesh, the erev. At night he could eat. Reb Chia Messiah ba v'chaver b'del mimeni v'yikonos Yochanan ochel chalos ve'alu Rabbi Lakuna al piv. Reb Chia said that the friends used to call him Yochanan ochel chalos. He was the guy who ate challah on truma. Also is included in challah. Things which can only be by Kohen. Ve'alu Rabbi Lakuna al piv. He was just talking to therapists about. I'm just adding a therapist, but he was talking to somebody about what happened in his childhood. He was recounting and recollecting his childhood. Had a recollection from his childhood. He wasn't doing it in the form of Eidos, so therefore when someone's Mesiach Levi Tumo, even though there's Kurva, we believe him, there's no Chash of Shakranus over here. Normally, the Gemara says that Krovim are not possible because of Negius, because they're with Chash Shakranus, just the Torah passed them. We'll have to discuss that some other time, why the Gemara seems to say Mesiach Levi Tumo is okay by Krovim. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion. We're going to talk more about. The Gemara really doesn't give a maskana over here, or maybe it does. I didn't do Daf Chavav yet, and then Chavav, but it seems to me there is already a maskana, whether Malam and Siyas Kapayim Liyuchsin, and I want to explain what the rayas from Kriyas HaTorah. The Gemara really didn't discuss Malam and Kriyas HaTorah Liyuchsin. The Gemara really does say that, and really that's the same idea. The Siyas Kapayim Liyuchsin. Stay tuned for Yom Ben Sion coming up next.